We are going to continue in Genesis. We will be reading chapters 41 through 45. I am reading out of the Interlinear Bible, and it is the Hebrew translation, the Aramaic translation of the Old Testament. Chapter 41 of Genesis. And it happened at the end of 2 years of days, Pharaoh was dreaming, and lo, he was standing by the river. And behold, 7 cows were going up from the river, beautiful of appearance, and fat of flesh, and they were eating in the reeds. And behold, 7 other cows were going up after them from the river, evil of appearance, and lean of flesh. And they were standing beside the cows on the bank of the river. And the evil appearing and lean-fleshed cows were eating the 7 cows of beautiful and fat appearance. And Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamt a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain were coming up on one stalk, fat and good. And behold, 7 ears of grain, lean and blasted by the east wind, sprouting forth after them. And the 7 lean ears were swallowing the 7 fat and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and lo, it was a dream. And it happened in the morning, his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dream, and there was no interpreter of them to Pharaoh. And the chief of the cupbearers spoke with Pharaoh, saying, I mentioned my sin today. Pharaoh was angry against his servants, and gave me into custody in the house of the chief of the executioners, me and the chief of the bakers. And we dreamed a dream in one night, he and I. We each dreamed according to the interpretation of his dream. And a Hebrew youth was with us, a slave to the chief of the executioners. And we told him, and he interpreted our dreams to us. He interpreted to each according to his dream. And it came about, as he had interpreted to us, so it was. He returned me to my place, and he hanged him. And Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they bade him hasten from the dungeon. And he shaved and changed his clothing, and came in to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. And I have heard about you, saying, You hear a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, Not I. God will answer the welfare of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream, lo, I was standing on the lip of the river, and behold, 7 cows were going up from the river, fat of flesh and beautiful of form, and were feeding in the reeds. And behold, 7 other cows were going up after them, poor and very evil of form, and lean of flesh. I have not seen any like them in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the cows, the lean and the evil, ate the first 7 fat cows, and they went into their stomachs, and it could not be seen that they had gone into their stomach. And their appearance was as evil as at the beginning. And I awakened. And I looked in my dream, and behold, 7 ears of grain were coming up on one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered, lean, blasted by the east wind, sprouting forth after them. And the lean ears were swallowing the 7 gold ears. And I spoke to the magicians, but not one is making known the meaning to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows, they are 7 years, and the 7 good ears, they are 7 years. It is one dream. And the 7 thin and evil appearing cows going up after them, they are 7 years. And 7 empty ears, blasted by the east wind, they are 7 years of famine. This is the word which I spoke to Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he has shown Pharaoh. Behold, 7 years of great plenty are coming in all the land of Egypt, and 7 years of famine will arise after them. And all the plenty of the land of Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will consume the land. and the plenty in the land will not be remembered in the face of that following, for it will be very severe. And as to the dream being repeated to Pharaoh twice, that is the thing established from God, and God is hastening to do it. And now let Pharaoh look for a man who is intelligent and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh act, and let him appoint overseers over the land, and take a fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty, and let them gather all the food of these coming good years. And let them heap up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, as food in the cities, and let them store it, and let the food be a store for the land for the 7 years of famine, which will be in the land of Egypt, and let not the land be cut off by famine. And the word was good in Pharaoh's eyes, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Can we find any man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since God has taught you all this, there is no one wise and intelligent like you. You shall be over my house, and at your mouth all my people shall kiss the hand. Only in respect to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Behold, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it on the hand of Joseph. And he clothed him with fine white garments, and put a golden chain on his neck. And he caused him to ride in a chariot which was the second to him. And they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he put him over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without a word from you not a man shall lift his hand or his foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph by the name of Zephaniah, and he gave him Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, for a wife. And Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old, as he stood before Pharaoh king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the face of Pharaoh, and passed over in the land of Egypt. And the land produced by handfuls in the 7 years of plenty. And he gathered all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt. And he put food in the cities. The food in the field of the city which was around it, he put in the middle of it. And Joseph heaped up grain like the sand of the sea, exceedingly much, until he ceased to count it, because it was without number. And 2 sons were born to Joseph before the year of the famine came, whose Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my toil and all the house of my father. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for he said, God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty, which were in the land of Egypt, were ended, and the 7 years of famine began to come according as Joseph had said. And the famine was in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And all the land of Egypt hungered, and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said to all Egypt, Go to Joseph, what he says to you, do. And the famine was on the face of all the land. And Joseph opened all which was in them, and sold to the Egyptians. And the famine was strong in the land of Egypt, and all the earth came to Egypt to buy to Joseph, for the famine was severe in all the earth. Genesis chapter 42. And Jacob saw that grain was in Egypt. And Jacob said to his sons, Why do you look at each other? And he said, Behold, I have heard grain is in Egypt. Go down there and buy for us from there, so that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. And Jacob did send Benjamin, the brother of Joseph, with his brothers, because he said, Lest harm happen to him. And the sons of Israel came to buy among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the potentate over the land. He was the one selling to all the people of the earth. And Joseph's brothers came in and bowed themselves to him, face down to the earth. And Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, and acted as a stranger toward them, and spoke harsh things to them and said to them, Where have you come from? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed concerning them. And he said to them, You are spies. You have come in to see the bareness of the land. And they said to him, No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all of us sons of one man. We are honest. Your servants are not spies. And he said to them, No, but you have come in to see the bareness of the land. And they said, Your servants are 12. We are brothers, sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And lo, the youngest is with our father today, and the one is not. And Joseph said to them, This is that which I have spoken to you, saying, You are spies. By this you shall be tested. As Pharaoh lives, you shall not leave here except your younger brother come in here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, and you be bound, and let your words be proven, whether truth is with you. And if not, as Pharaoh lives, surely you are spies. And he gathered them into custody 3 days. And on the 3rd day Joseph said to them, Do this and live. I fear God. If you are honest, let one, your brother, be bound in the house of your prison, and you go bring grain for the famine of your houses. And you bring your youngest brother to me, and let your words be confirmed, and you shall not die. And so they did. And they said each to his brother, We are truly guilty because of our brother, whom we saw in distress of his soul, when he begged us, and we did not hear. This is why this distress has come to us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Did I not speak to you, saying, Do not sin against the youth? And you did not hear. And behold, his blood is also required. And they did not know that Joseph heard, because the interpreter was between them. And he turned away from them and wept, and returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph commanded, and they filled their vessels with grain, and returned their money, each into his sack, and gave them food for the way, and one did so to them. And they loaded their grain on their asses and departed from there. And one opened his sack to give fodder to his ass in the lodging place. And he saw his money, and behold, it was in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, My money has been restored, and also look on my sack. And their hearts sank, and they each were terrified, saying to his brother, What is this God has done to us? And they came to their father Jacob to the land of Canaan, and told him all that had happened to them, saying, The man and the ruler of the land spoke harsh things with us, and gave us to be as spies in the land. And we said to him, We are honest, we are not spies, we are 12 brothers, sons of our father, the one is not, and the youngest is today with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the ruler of the land, said to us, By this I shall know that you are honest. Leave one, your brother, with me, and take and go, for the famine of your houses, and bring your youngest brother to me, that I may know that you are not spies, but you are honest. I will give your brother to you, and you may go through the land. And it happened, they were emptying their sacks, and behold, each one's bundle of money was in his sack, and they saw the bundles of their money, they and their father, and they were afraid. And their father Jacob said to them, You have bereaved me. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and you will take Benjamin. All of these are against me. Reuben spoke to his father, saying, You may kill my 2 sons, if I do not bring him to you. Give him into my hand, and I will return him to you. And he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is alone is left. And if harm should happen to him in the way in which you go, you would bring down my gray hair in sorrow to the grave. Genesis chapter 43. And the famine was severe in the land. And it happened, and they had finished eating the grain which they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, Go back, buy a little food for us. And Judah spoke to him, saying, The man vehemently protested to us, saying, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you are sending our brother with us, we will go down and buy food for you. And if you are not sending, we will not go down. For the man said to us, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. And Israel said, Why do you do evil to me, to tell the man whether you still had a brother? And they said, The man keenly asked about us, and about our kindred, saying, Is your father still alive? Is there a brother to you? And we answered him according to these words. Could we know certainly that he would say, Bring down your brother? And Judah said to his father Israel, Send the young one with me, and let us rise up and go, so that we may live and not die, both we and you and our little ones. I will be surety for him. You may require him from my hand. If I do not bring him to you and set him before you, I shall be a sinner against you all the days. For if we have not delayed, truly now we would have returned here twice. And their father Israel said to them, If it be so, then do this. Take from the produce of the land in your vessels, and bring a present down to the man, a little balm, and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take double silver in your hand, and take back in your hand the silver they returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was an oversight. And take your brother and rise up. Return to the man, and may God Almighty give mercy to you before the man. And may he send your other brother and Benjamin to you. And I, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved. And the men took this present, and they took double silver in their hand, and Benjamin. And they arose and went to Egypt and stood before Joseph. And Joseph saw Benjamin with them, and said to the one over his house, Bring the men into the house, and make a great slaughter, and prepare, for the men shall eat with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph said. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And they said, It is on account of the silver that was returned in our sacks, before that we are being brought in, to throw himself on us and fall on us, and to take us and our asses for slaves. And they came near to the man over Joseph's house, and spoke to him at the door of the house. And they said, O my lord, surely we came before to buy food. And it happened, when we came to the lodging place and opened our sacks, behold, the silver of each one was in the mouth of his sack, our silver in its weight. And we have brought other silver in our hand to buy food. We do not know who put our silver in our sacks. And he said, Peace to you. Do not fear. Your God and the God of your father has given treasure to you in your sacks. Your silver came to me. And he brought Simeon to them. And the man brought the men to the house of Joseph. And he furnished water, and they washed their feet. And he gave fodder to their asses. And they prepared the present for the coming of Joseph at noon, for they had heard that they would eat bread there. And Joseph came into the house, and they brought the present which was in their hand into him, into the house. And they bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare. And he said, Is there peace to your father, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? And they said, There is peace to your servant, to our father, he is still alive. And they bowed themselves and fell before him. And he raised his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, the son of his mother. And he said, Is this your youngest brother, of whom you spoke to me? And he said, My God be gracious to you, my son. And Joseph hurried, for his emotions were deeply moved toward his brother. And he looked for a place to weep. And he came into the inner room and wept there. And he washed his face and went out, and controlled himself, and said, Lay out bread. And they laid out for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians eating with him by themselves. For the Egyptians cannot eat bread with the Hebrews, for it is an abomination in Egypt. And they set before him the firstborn according to his birthright, and the younger according to his youth. And the men were astonished, each to his neighbor. And one carried portions from before him to them, and the portion of Benjamin was greater than the portions of all of them, 5 times. And they drank and were drunken with him. Genesis chapter 44. And he commanded the one over his house, saying, Fill the sacks of the men with food, as much as they are able to carry, and put the money of each one in the mouth of his sack. And put my cup, the cup of silver, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and the silver for his grain. And he did according to the word of Joseph which he spoke. At the morning light the men were sent away, they and their asses. They had gone out from the city, not having gone far. And Joseph said to the one over his house, Rise up, follow after the men, and overtake them, and say to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? And this not that in which my Lord is accustomed to. Drink and divining he divines by it. You have done evil in what you have done. And he overtook them and spoke these words to them. And they said to him, Why should my Lord speak according to these words? Far be it from your servants to do according to this word. See the silver which we found in the mouth of our sacks. We returned to you from the land of Canaan. And how should we steal silver or gold from the house of your Lord? With whomever it may be found, with him of your servants, he shall die. And we also will become slaves to my Lord. And he said, Now also let it be according to your words. With whomever it is found with him, he will become a slave to me, and you shall be innocent. And they hurried, and each one brought down his sack to the earth. And each one opened his sack, and he searched, with the oldest first, and with the youngest last. And the cup was found in the sack of Benjamin. And they tore their clothes, and they each one loaded his ass, and returned to the city. And Joseph and his brothers came in to the house of Joseph, and he was still there. And they fell before him on the earth. And Joseph said to them, What is this deed which you have done? Did you not know that a man like me would practice divination? And Judah said, What can we say to my Lord? What can we speak, and in what can we justify ourselves? God has found out the iniquity of your servants. Behold, we are slaves to my Lord, both we and he, in whose hand the cup was found. And he said, Far be it from me to do this. The man in whose hand the cup was found, he shall become a slave to me, and you go up in peace to your father. And Judah came near to him and said, O my Lord, please let your servant speak a word in the ears of my Lord, and let not your anger glow on your servant, for you are like Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Is there a brother or a father to you? And we said to my Lord, An aged father is to us, and a young child of his old age, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, and let me see him. And we said to my Lord, The youth is not able to leave his father. If he should leave his father, he will die. And you said to your servants, If your youngest brother does not come down with you, you shall not see my face again. And it happened, when we had gone up to your servant, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go back, buy a little food for us. And we said, We cannot go down. If our youngest brother is with us, we will go down, for we cannot see the face of the man if our youngest brother is not with us. And your servant, my father, said to us, You know that my wife bore two to me, and one went out from me, and I said, Indeed, he surely is torn in pieces, and I have not seen him until now. And if you take this one also from my face, and harm happen to him, you will bring my gray hair to the grave in sorrow. And now when I come to your servant, my father, and the youth is not with us, and his soul being bound to his soul, it will be, when he sees that the youth is not, he will die. And your servants will bring down the gray hair of your servant, our father, to grave in sorrow. For your servant was surety, for the youth with my father, saying, If I do not bring him to you, I shall be a sinner against my father all the days. And now please let your servant remain as a slave to my lord instead of the youth, and let the youth go up with his brothers. For how can I go to my father, and the youth not be with me, lest I look on the evil which will find my father? Genesis chapter 45. And Joseph was not able to control himself in regard to those standing beside him. And he called out, Cause every man to go out from me. And no man stood before him, as Joseph was making himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians heard, and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? And his brothers were not able to answer him, for they trembled before him. And Joseph said to his brothers, Now come near to me. And they came near. And he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be grieved, and let no anger be in your eyes because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to save life. For the famine has been in the midst of the land for 2 years, and there are still 5 years in which no plowing and harvest will be. And God sent me before you to put a remnant in the land for you, and to keep alive for you a great deliverance. And now you did not send me here, but God, and he has placed me for a father to Pharaoh, and for a lord in all his house, and a ruler in all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, So says your son Joseph, God has placed me as Lord to all Egypt. Come down to me, do not delay. And you shall live in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near to me, you and your sons, and the son of your sons, and your flocks, and your herds, and all you have. I will nourish you there, for there are still 5 years of famine, lest you be made poor, you and your house, and all which belongs to you. And behold your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin. See that my mouth is speaking to you, and you tell my father of all my honor in Egypt, and all that you have seen. And hurry and bring down my father here. And he fell on the neck of his brother Benjamin and wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept on them. And afterwards his brothers spoke with him. And the report was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, The brothers of Joseph have come. And it was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Say to your brothers, Do this, load your animals and depart. Go to the land of Canaan, and take your father and your houses, and come to me. And I will give to you the good of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land. And you are commanded, you do this. Take for yourselves wagons from the land of Egypt, for your little ones and for your wives. And take your father and come. And your eye let it not regard for your vessels, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours. And the sons of Israel did so. And by the mouth of Pharaoh, Joseph gave wagons to them. And he gave food to them for the way. He gave to all of them, to each one, changes of clothing. And he gave to Benjamin 300 pieces of silver, and 5 changes of clothing. And to his father he sent this, 10 asses bearing the good things of Egypt, and 10 she-asses bearing grain and bread, and food for his father for the way. And he sent his brothers away, and they went. And he said to them, Do not quarrel along the way. And they went up from Egypt and came into the land of Canaan, to their father Jacob. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is ruler in all the land of Egypt. And his heart froze up, for he did not believe them. And they spoke to him all Joseph's words, which he had spoken to them. And he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, and the spirit of their father Jacob revived. And Israel said, It is enough. My son Joseph is alive. I will go and see him before I die.